dark romance. Tonight, you're about to fall into a world where love is dangerous, where obsession blurs with desire, and where one mistake can cost you everything. This is a story of power, passion, and a love that was never meant to happen. But once it started, it refused to end. Now close your eyes. Let the darkness pull you in. The silence in the top floor of Voss International could crush a person. Elena's heels echoed sharply across the cold marble, the sound slicing through a suffocating stillness. Her resume trembled slightly in her grip, though she kept her chin high. They said Damien Voss didn't hire assistants. He broke them. And yet, here she was. The final candidate. The final interview. Or the final offering. The elevator opened to a hallway of glass offices and blank stairs. At the end, a black door with his name in silver. She knocked once. Enter. The voice was smooth, low, not loud, but so commanding it curled straight down her spine. She stepped inside. Damien Voss didn't glance up immediately. He sat behind a matte black desk, shirt sleeves rolled to the elbows, his tie loosened just enough to make her mind wander. The man was carved from control, every line sharp, every movement calculated. When his eyes finally lifted to hers, Elena felt them crawl over her body. Not in lust, in evaluation, as if he were deciding what she'd cost to ruin. "Elena Hart," he said without checking her file. "Yes, sir." His eyes narrowed slightly at "sir," not in irritation, but interest. "Sit," he ordered. She obeyed. He stood then, walked slowly around the desk, circling her like a predator assessing prey. His cologne hit her first, dark spice and danger. Her thighs pressed together on instinct, a reaction she hated. "I've reviewed your background," he murmured, now standing just behind her. She could feel the heat of his body, the air shifting with his breath. "You're overqualified, which tells me you're either desperate or stupid." Elena tilted her head slightly, not giving him the satisfaction of flinching. "Maybe I'm just the challenge you need." He paused, and she felt the smile before she saw it. "I don't like challenges, Ms. Hart," he said, stepping in front of her again. "I prefer obedience." His hand reached out, slow, and brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The touch was light, but her skin burned beneath it. Her breath hitched. He noticed. His smile deepened into something dark. "You'll start tomorrow," he said, voice low. 9 sharp. My schedule will be in your inbox." She blinked. "That's it? No questions?" He leaned down, his mouth close to her ear. "I don't ask questions. I issue orders. And you'll learn, Ms. Hart." His lips almost touched her skin. "I don't like to repeat myself." He straightened, already walking away. "And one more thing." She turned, heartbeat erratic. "Wear black." He didn't look at her when he said the last words. "You're mine now." The next morning, Elena stood in front of the mirror, dressed in a fitted black blouse and pencil skirt, his command echoing in her ears. Wear black. It shouldn't have bothered her, but it did, because it wasn't a suggestion, it was ownership. The elevator ride to the top floor felt longer than yesterday, like the building itself was warning her. And when the doors opened, the office was different, quieter, colder. And at the far end, his door was ajar. She stepped in without knocking. He was already standing, by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back turned. The city skyline stretched behind him like a kingdom he controlled. "I expected you 5 minutes earlier," he said, voice low. "I'm on time," she replied. He turned slowly. Gray eyes locked on hers. "I didn't say you were late. I said what I expected." She swallowed hard. Noted. He walked toward her, his footsteps too soft for how loud they felt. Her heart thundered. He stopped close. Too close. His gaze fell to her black blouse. "You followed instructions. I don't like being told what to wear." He leaned in, his voice a whisper of sin. "Good. I don't like women who make it easy." Her breath caught, but she refused to look away. And that amused him. "You'll sit outside my door. You'll answer only to me. You'll speak when spoken to, and you will never—" He brushed past her shoulder, his lips nearly grazing her hair. "Touch anything on my desk." Her skin burned where his breath had lingered. She turned, defiant. "What happens if I do?" He stopped in the doorway and looked back, smiling like a man who'd already won. "Then I'll have to punish you." And then he was gone, leaving her standing there, black-clad, breathless, and already drowning. The rest of the morning passed in strange, suffocating quiet. Elena sat at her sleek new desk just outside his door, answering emails, organizing meetings, and trying to pretend she couldn't feel him watching through the glass wall. He never called her in, never said a word, but every time she glanced up, Damien Voss was there, seated at his desk, eyes fixed on her like she was the next mistake he wanted to ruin. By noon, she couldn't take it. Her fingers hovered over the phone system, and then, without thinking, she stood. One step toward the door. It opened before she touched it. He stood there, dark suit immaculate, jaw tight. "You were about to enter my office without permission." She blinked. He didn't let her finish. "Come in." Her pulse spiked. Inside, the room smelled like cedar, leather, and something dangerous. His desk gleamed, and at the very center, her resume. "You touched my door." His voice was low, controlled. "That's not what we agreed on. It's just a door." He stepped closer. "You don't get to decide what's just anything in my world." His hand reached forward, fast, and swept her resume from the desk. Then, deliberately, he picked up a black fountain pen and clicked it. "I asked for obedience, Elena, not curiosity." She stood her ground. "Then maybe you shouldn't hire people you want to break." For a moment, silence. And then, his smile cracked. Dark. Dangerous. He moved behind her in seconds, one hand gripping her hip, the other brushing her hair aside. "I warned you about touching what's mine." Her breath faltered. "I'm not yours." His mouth was near her neck now, voice velvet and poison. "Not yet." And then, crack! The sharp sound of the fountain pen snapping in his hand made her jump. He tossed the broken pen aside like it meant nothing. "That was my favorite," he whispered. "Now you owe me something worth replacing it." She turned to face him, trembling with fury and something far worse, desire. "I won't play your games." His eyes blazed. "You already are." The next morning, Elena arrived earlier. Not to impress him. Never that. She just didn't want to give him another excuse to corner her. The office was still dark, but his was lit. Of course it was. She placed his coffee on the desk silently, refusing to meet those haunting gray eyes behind the glass. But she felt them, like chains tightening. At noon, her phone buzzed. A message. "Conference room. Now. Bring nothing." She almost laughed. Bring nothing? What was this? Interrogation. Still, she obeyed. The conference room was long, cold, and empty, except for him. Damien sat at the head of the glass table, no papers, no laptop, just lunch. A full catered spread, charcuterie, crystal water, 2 chairs. She hesitated. I didn't know this was a meeting. It's not. His voice was sharp silk. It's lunch. Her stomach twisted. She hadn't eaten since breakfast, but the way he looked at her, it wasn't about food. He gestured to the seat. She sat stiffly. You don't like surprises? He asked. I don't like manipulation. He poured her water. I'm not manipulating you. I'm feeding you. She picked up a fork slowly. Do you do this with all your assistants? He leaned back, gaze locked to hers. No. Why me? A beat of silence. Then, because you flinch when I touch you, but your pulse doesn't slow. You want to fight me, Elena. He leaned forward, voice darker. And I want to see how long you last. Her throat went dry. Is this how you get off? She asked. Playing God with the people you hire? He smirked, slow and calculated. No. When I get off, I'm much less dressed. Her breath caught, and he knew it. He reached across the table, slow and deliberate, brushing a crumb from her bottom lip with his thumb. Eat, he ordered softly. You'll need your strength. For what? She whispered. His eyes dropped to her mouth. For the next time you disobey. The next time Elena walked into his office, it was to drop off a contract. She placed the folder neatly on his desk, but her fingers brushed the edge of his pen. Instinctively, softly, just a touch, a mistake. He looked up from his computer, slowly, deliberately. You touched my desk, he said, voice low. I set down a file. You touched my pen. She blinked. Are you serious? He stood. You don't get to decide what matters in my world, Elena. He stepped around the desk and walked toward her. Her breath locked. He stopped an inch away. Not touching, but surrounding. I warned you once, he murmured. Now, let me show you what 2 warnings feel like. And then he stepped behind her and whispered, Turn around. Hands on the desk. Her eyes widened. What? Now. Heart hammering, she turned. He didn't touch her skin, not yet, but his breath was fire against her ear as he leaned down. I could bend you over right now, press you flat, not because you deserve it, but because you need to remember who holds control. A beat passed, then he stepped away, left her standing there, trembling. You're dismissed. Elena stormed out of his office, furious, humiliated. But when she returned to her desk, something new sat atop it, a small black box. No note, no explanation. She opened it. Inside was a flash drive, and a single word engraved on the casing, watch. That night, in her apartment, curiosity betrayed her. She plugged it in. It was surveillance footage, grainy, cold, from his office. The timestamp was from earlier that day. She watched herself enter, saw herself touch the pen. And then she saw him, watching from his chair even before she'd noticed him, his eyes locked on her, expression unreadable. He'd been watching her long before she ever touched anything. She swallowed. Beneath the footage was a file folder. One sentence burned in red. I see everything. The next morning, she tried to ignore him. Tried, but when the elevator doors closed, she realized too late. He was inside. Just him and her, trapped in silence. His presence filled the space like smoke. Then, as the doors began to close, he pressed the stop button. Her pulse leapt. He turned to her slowly. "You've been avoiding me." She held his gaze. "You think the world revolves around you?" "No," he said softly. "Yours does." He moved closer until her back hit the mirrored wall. "I've given you warnings, Elena. You think that makes you brave. But brave girls break too." Her chest heaved. "You don't scare me." He leaned in. "You should be terrified." He brushed his lips just beneath her jaw. Not a kiss. A threat. Then he restarted the elevator and said nothing else. She stormed into his office without knocking. "I'm not your toy," she snapped. He looked up slowly, fingers steepled. "No, you're not." That surprised her. "But I own the space you breathe in, the desk you sit at, the future you're running toward. So whether you're my toy is irrelevant." She froze. "What do you want from me?" He stood, walked to her, eyes narrowed. "Everything." And then quietly, "I want to see what you look like when you stop pretending you're not already mine." She stayed late that night, trying to bury herself in work, anything to distract her. The office emptied, but at midnight, a message appeared on her screen. "Conference room B." Now, she should have ignored it. She didn't. The room was dark, except for a single lamp, and him, shirt sleeves rolled, tie gone, eyes stormy. "I need you to type something for me," he said. She walked to the table, confused. He slid a laptop toward her. "Type exactly what I say." She sat. "Ready?" She nodded. He leaned close, lips at her ear. "I surrender control." She froze. "Type it." Her fingers trembled. She did. "No," he whispered. "I want to hear you say it." She looked at him, defiant. "I won't?" He smirked. "Then we'll be here all night." By 2 a.m., she was still in the room, still refusing to say it, still defying him. He didn't seem tired. If anything, he looked fascinated. Finally, she stood. "I'm leaving." He stood too. "Without permission?" She turned for the door. His voice dropped. "Elena." She stopped. "You walk out now, and I will come find you. Not in the office, not behind glass, but in the places where your rules don't work." Her breath hitched. He stepped forward. "Choose your punishment now, or I'll choose it for you." Silence. She turned, walked back and whispered, "Fine." He smiled, like a devil who'd just won another soul. The office was empty after hours. Silent, except for the ticking of the antique clock on Damien's wall. Elena sat on the couch in his office, legs crossed, wearing a dress too short for comfort. Not by choice. He'd told her to wear it, sent it to her apartment in a box with a note. "Be seated in my office." Midnight. No underwear. The air crackled with tension. The door opened at exactly 12 hours. Damien walked in, his coat still on, eyes slowly raking over her. He locked the door behind him, then leaned against it, arms crossed. "I like obedience," he said quietly, "but I love resistance more." Elena swallowed hard. "So this is what I am now? A performance?" He walked toward her slowly, like a predator circling prey. "No, you're the test I didn't know I needed." Then he crouched before her, hands on her knees. "Tell me to stop." She didn't, couldn't. Instead, she whispered, "Why me?" He smiled. "Because you're the only one in this entire city who looks me in the eyes and still says no." The next morning, she wore bruises like kisses. Not from his hands. He'd never truly hurt her, but from the effect he had. The loss of sleep, the racing heart, the madness. At her desk, Elena tried to keep her head down, but when she saw the red envelope on her keyboard, no name, no logo, her heart stopped. Inside was a photo, her, from last night, sitting on his couch, taken from above. A camera? She rushed into his office, her voice trembling. "Is this some kind of joke?" Damien looked at the photo and didn't blink. "That's not from me." Her blood ran cold. He stood and took it from her hands. His face changed. Not with guilt, but fury. "Someone's watching." Then, for the first time, he touched her not like a boss or a sadist, but a man afraid to lose. "I'll find out who. And when I do, they'll bleed." Security was tripled. Her apartment was swept. Cameras were found, hidden, tiny, watching her bedroom. She cried that night, alone in the bathtub, the kind of silent cry no one sees, but he did. Somehow, he always knew. She found him outside her door at 2 a.m., shirtless, eyes haunted. "I can't sleep when I know someone's trying to break you." Elena shook her head. "This is sick, Damien. Everything about this." He cupped her face with rough hands. "Then why haven't you run?" Because she didn't want to, and when he kissed her, it wasn't a command this time. It was a need. The office became their theater. The boardroom, their confessional. He dragged her into a meeting room after a tense conference, slammed the door, and pinned her against the window. Rain poured outside, the world blurred. "I'm losing control with you," he hissed. "You never had control," she spat back, breathless. He kissed her like punishment, like he hated how much he needed her. Then he whispered toward against her lips. "Next time you disobey me in front of the board, I'll bend you over the table and make them listen." She gasped. "You're insane." Damien grinned. "Only for you." But after the passion came silence. He stopped calling. No gifts, no texts. A week passed. When she finally entered his office uninvited, she found the room cold, empty. A manila folder lay on the desk with her name on it. Inside, flight tickets, a check, a resignation letter, already signed in her name. "What the hell is this?" she asked, shaking. Damien stepped out from the shadows behind the curtain. His face was unreadable. "I'm protecting you." Tears burned her eyes. "By erasing me." He walked to her slowly, brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "No, I'm saving you from what I'll become if you stay." The plane ticket felt like a death sentence. Elena held it in shaking hands, staring at the date, the destination. So final, so cold. He tried to hand her the envelope again. "Take it." She threw it back at him. "No." Damien's jaw ticked. "I'm giving you freedom." "You're forcing me out," she shot back, eyes blazing. "Don't pretend this is about me. It's about you." He looked away, but his voice was raw. "If you stay, I'll ruin you." Tears blurred her vision. "You already have." His breath caught as if she'd stabbed him. Elena stepped forward, chest nearly touching his, so close she could feel the tremble in his shoulders. "If you want me gone, you'll have to throw me out yourself, because I'm not leaving." He looked into her eyes, as if searching for something to keep him steady. "Don't say that." "Say what?" she challenged. "That you want me. That you're still mine." She held his gaze, tears spilling. "I've always been yours." He broke just for a moment, just enough to let her see the truth. Damien Voss, destroyer of everyone, was terrified of destroying her. The next morning, she arrived at the office before him, sat behind her pristine glass desk, trying to steady her breathing. When Damien arrived, he paused at the threshold, looking at her like a man starved. "Why are you here?" he asked, voice hoarse. "Because this is where I belong." He walked closer, slow as death, until their knees nearly touched. "Every part of me," he said, "wants to break you, to keep you so close you can never run." She swallowed. "Then do it." His hand slammed down on either side of her chair, caging her in. His face was inches from hers, rage and hunger dancing in his eyes. "Don't tempt me, Elena. You don't know what I'm capable of." She looked up, unblinking. "Show me." And he kissed her, violently, hungrily, a desperate confession in place of words. They ended up in his penthouse again. Clothes forgotten, morality forgotten. He took her against the wall, against the glass, their reflections twisted by city lights. She felt the press of cold steel. A necklace he placed around her throat, a thin silver chain with a tiny lock. "Do you know what this is?" he asked between ragged breaths. "A collar," she whispered, throat raw. His mouth hovered over hers. "No, it's a promise." Her fingers traced the lock, breathless. "Promise me what?" "That you are mine, Elena Hart," he growled, voice breaking. "And no one else will ever touch you again." She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The lock clicked shut, and so did her freedom. Monday arrived, and with it a brutal shock. A single black rose lay on her keyboard, no card, no signature. Damien froze when he saw it. He picked up the rose with gloved hands, inspecting it like a weapon. "Where did this come from?" he demanded. "I don't know," Elena whispered. His jaw tightened. "You will not leave this building alone again." "Damien, it's just a flower." "It's a threat." He crushed the stem in his hand, dark petals scattering across her files, and for the first time she saw something close to panic in his eyes. "Someone wants you gone," he said, voice shaking, "and they'll come through me to get to you." That night she stayed in his penthouse under tight guard. Cameras, alarms, no privacy, no peace. Damien paced like a caged animal, barely speaking. Finally, past midnight, his phone buzzed. He answered with a clipped growl. "Voss." A pause. His entire body went still. "Who?" he asked, voice dropping to a lethal whisper. Then he turned to her, eyes cold as ice. "It's your ex," he said, jaw flexing. "The one you said left you alone." Elena felt the blood drain from her face. "He's the one sending threats?" Damien nodded. "And now he wants you back." Her heart twisted with fear. Damien stepped closer, voice low and lethal. "He can try," he said, "but he'll die before he touches you again." Elena's fingertips brushed over the velvet folder on her desk. A sealed file from Damien, marked confidential, but her focus was broken by the warmth behind her. She hadn't even heard him enter. He didn't speak. He simply placed his hand on her shoulder. Not rough, not cold, but terrifyingly gentle. The kind of touch that meant more, the kind that left fire in its wake. "You opened my drawer last night." She froze. I was looking for a pen." "Liar," he whispered at her neck. "You were looking for answers." His breath was so close she could feel it inside her spine. "I should punish you." Her heart thudded, breath caught between fear and something darker, and then his fingers slid to her wrist and pulled her gently, but firmly, up from her chair. "I want to show you something." The elevator doors opened to a level she hadn't seen before. Floor 00. Unlisted. Unreachable. It was quiet, dimly lit, and completely different from the corporate floors above. Damien led her into a long hallway of glass and shadows. At the end stood a room with red lighting and a door that clicked shut behind them. The walls were lined with portraits. Her eyes scanned them and stopped. It was her. A photo of her, taken weeks ago, walking into the building on her first day. "What is this?" "I watch what belongs to me." "You don't own me," she snapped. He stepped closer, eyes burning like lit obsidian. "Then why do you shake every time I touch you?" Elena's lips parted. She couldn't answer, and that terrified her more than the photos. He placed a thick envelope in front of her. Another contract. No NDAs this time. This one's personal. She opened it with trembling hands. It wasn't employment terms. It was rules, psychological terms, restrictions, obedience. And at the bottom, a line for her signature. "I don't understand." Damien leaned in. "You're mine, Elena. Whether you sign or not. This just makes it official." "Why me?" Her voice broke. He looked at her like she was fragile porcelain. "Because when I look at you, I remember I'm still human." He left her with the contract and a pen. The clock ticked past midnight. Elena was still sitting alone in his private office, the unsigned contract before her. Her body remembered his hands. Her mind remembered the walls of that red-lit room. The photo, the possessiveness. She should walk away, but her fingers lifted the pen. She told herself it was for control, to protect herself, to understand him. But when she signed her name, something else stirred. Something she couldn't name. And when she turned around, Damien was already standing there in the shadows, watching. "You've made your choice." That night, Damien didn't take her to his penthouse. He took her to a location off the city map, a fortress in the hills, isolated, silent. "Rule 1, he said as they stepped inside. "You obey me, always. Rule 2, I don't hurt you, unless you ask." She backed away, not from fear, but from how right it all felt. "You're insane," she whispered. His hand cupped her jaw. "You're the one who signed, Elena." He leaned in, lips brushing hers. Not a kiss, but a promise. "And I always collect what's mine." Elena stood in the center of Damien's penthouse office, her heart pounding beneath her silk blouse, the sound of rain tapping against the glass walls behind her. The city sprawled in a blur of lights, but her focus was only on the man in front of her, the one who had shattered every line she thought she wouldn't cross. Damien's eyes, those brutal ice-blue pools, were fixed on her like she was prey. But she wasn't afraid. Not anymore. She was angry. "You lied to me," she said quietly. "About everything. The contract, the threats, what you did to Richard." He leaned against his desk, unbothered, pouring himself a glass of dark bourbon. "I didn't lie," he said coldly. "I just didn't tell you the parts that would have made you run." "And now?" she asked, voice shaking. "Do you want me to run?" He set the glass down and walked toward her slowly, like a shadow stretching at midnight. "No," he said darkly. "Now I want you to break. And then I'll rebuild you, piece by piece, as mine." Her breath hitched, a wave of heat and fury rushing through her. "You think I'll just let you?" He grabbed her wrist mid-sentence, pulling her flush against his chest, his lips brushing the shell of her ear. "You already have." And she had. Somewhere between the punishments and the confessions, the control and the chaos. She'd stopped resisting. Her body betrayed her. Her heart, too. "I hate you," she whispered, voice cracking. "Good," he growled. "Hate is passion stripped of mercy. And I don't want your mercy, Elena. I want your soul." He kissed her then, hungry, bruising, claiming. She should have pulled away. She should have screamed. But instead, her hands fisted into his shirt as she kissed him back like he was oxygen, like he was pain and pleasure wrapped into one. Because maybe he was. And maybe she no longer cared what that made her. Elena sat on the edge of Damien's bed, her lips still swollen from his kiss, her pulse refusing to settle. The penthouse was too quiet now. No thunder outside, no words left between them, just the weight of everything that had happened, and the knowledge that she wasn't leaving. Couldn't. She stared down at her wrists, faint red marks from his grip still blooming like bruised roses. And yet, she wasn't scared. She was trembling, yes, but not from fear, from the intensity of what he pulled out of her. The things she didn't want to admit she liked. The door clicked open behind her. Damien stepped in silently, his suit jacket gone, sleeves rolled up. His face was unreadable, but his presence? It swallowed the room whole. "You stayed," he murmured, stepping closer. "I didn't say I forgave you. I didn't ask for that." He knelt in front of her, a strange gentleness in the way his hand touched her knee, trailing up her thigh slowly, testing the boundary between comfort and sin. "I'm not good for you, Elena," he whispered. "I destroy things I love." "Then don't love me," she replied. His jaw clenched. Too late. She felt it then, the ache behind his dominance. The way his control wasn't just about power, it was about fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of what she made him feel. "I want to hate you," she whispered, cupping his face. "I want you to," he breathed. "Because if you ever loved me back, I wouldn't survive it." Then he kissed her again, slower this time. Less fire, more desperation. As if her lips were the only thing tethering him to this world. And in that moment, tangled between lust and lies, Elena realized the truth. They weren't just playing with fire. They were the fire. Damien didn't sleep. Not even after she did. Elena lay tangled in his sheets, breath soft, one arm flung over the pillow where he used to be. Her hair spread like ink across the ivory linens, her back bare, vulnerable. His marks still dotted her thighs, a twisted gallery of possession. He stood by the window, shirtless, cigarette burning between his fingers, staring out at the skyline as if it could answer the questions clawing inside him. What was she doing to him? No woman had ever made him pause. No one had ever touched the decayed place in his chest where love should have died long ago. But Elena... She was peeling him open like she wanted to see the rot inside. And worse, she didn't flinch when she saw it. The door creaked behind him. "I know you're awake," she said softly. Damien turned. She'd wrapped a sheet around herself like armor. But her eyes, those dark, defiant eyes, were naked. He walked toward her, slow, deliberate. Her breath hitched as he approached, but she didn't back away. "Not this time." "You look at me like you already know what I am," he said. "I do. And you're still here." "I am." "Why?" She didn't blink. "Because monsters only fear one thing, someone who's not afraid of them." He reached out, brushing a knuckle down her jaw. "I could break you." "You already have." Silence. Then Damien pulled her against his chest, burying his face in her neck like her scent might save him. His voice broke through the darkness, low and rough. "I don't want to hurt you anymore." But you will. Yes. She clutched the sheet tighter but leaned into him anyway. Her voice, when it came, was a whisper of surrender. Then do it slowly. And he did. Elena's world had changed. Not overnight, but moment by moment. Every time he touched her, stared at her too long, or said her name like it tasted like power and poison at once. She sat alone in his massive office now, the same place he once dragged her into as punishment. Now it was a sanctuary, or a cage. She couldn't decide. The city lights shimmered outside. The rain tapped gently against the windows, and behind her, the door opened. Damien stepped inside, his black shirt soaked from the storm, hair a S, eyes hollow. "You're late," she said, trying to sound brave. "I had to see someone." He walked past her, not looking, heading straight to the decanter on the shelf. His hands shook as he poured. She watched him. "You saw her again, didn't you?" she asked. "The woman from your past." His hand froze mid-pour. "Elena, don't lie to me." He turned slowly, drink in hand. "I'm not lying. I saw her." "Why?" He didn't answer immediately. He took a long sip instead, then stared at her like he was debating whether to burn everything down or finally speak the truth. "I needed to remember," he said. "I needed to see how it ended, so I wouldn't repeat it with you." Elena stood, heart racing. "And what do you remember?" Damien took a step forward. "I remember loving someone who destroyed me, and I remember becoming the kind of man who destroys others, to make sure it never happens again." Another step. "But you're different," he said, voice low. "You're not trying to destroy me. You're trying to survive me. And I don't know which is worse." She swallowed hard. "Then tell me the truth. Just once. Do you want me? Or are you using me to forget her?" The question hung in the air like a loaded gun. Damien dropped the glass. It shattered across the floor, and then he was on her, one hand tangled in her hair, the other gripping her waist as his lips crashed into hers. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't sweet. It was agony and need and grief, all fused into one desperate kiss. When he pulled away, his voice broke. "I want you, Elena. I want you so badly, it makes me sick." She blinked, tears threatening. "Then stop trying to scare me away." His voice was barely a whisper. "I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to save you." She touched his face, trembling. Too late for that. The rain hadn't stopped. It poured like the heavens were mourning. For what was lost, for what couldn't be fixed, for two broken people clinging to the sharp edges of something that looked like love, but bled like war. Elena stood at the edge of the cliff behind Damien's estate, the wind whipping through her hair, the ocean roaring below like it was calling her home. She didn't hear his footsteps, but she felt him. "Damien, I thought you'd run," he said, voice rough. She didn't turn around. "I almost did." Silence. Then he came closer, his presence folding around her like a dark wave. "You still can," he whispered. "You should." She turned, slowly, her eyes rimmed in red but burning with clarity. "You always give me that choice, but never let me go." He stared at her. "Because I can't." His hand lifted, not to grab, not to hurt, but to cup her cheek, trembling. His eyes were dark, empty and full all at once. "I never deserved you," he said. "I still don't. But I swear to you, I won't let my past decide our future." Elena's heart cracked open. "You can't fix what you broke in me," she said. "I know," he whispered, "but I'll stay. And if all I can do is carry your pain, I will." Her eyes filled. What if I break you too? He smiled, sad, soft. Then maybe we'll finally be even. A long pause. Then she stepped into him. No more fear, no more running. Their kiss wasn't desperate this time. It was quiet, solid, like two souls finally settling in each other's chaos. The storm raged above. The sea howled below, but on that cliffside, in each other's arms, they were still, not healed, but alive, together, and for now, that was enough.
Some loves are written in fire, others in blood, but this one was carved into their souls. Thank you for listening to this dark and twisted tale. If it left you breathless, subscribe for more forbidden stories only on Dark Romance. Until next time, stay haunted.